Trade deadline passed. The Canucks come up with a 6-3 win in Chicago. We're breaking it down now. This is Rink Wide Vancouver. And we welcome you inside the Rink Wide Vancouver studios on a Friday night, not just any Friday night, the Friday night that saw the trade deadline come and go in the noon hour here in Vancouver. But there was a game to play, and a game they did play. The Vancouver Canucks defeat the Chicago Blackhawks by a score of 6-3. Rink Wide brought to you in part by Bet365. I am Jeff. He is Irf, and well, the second straight game that this hockey club has found some offense, a fair bit of entertainment. And stop me if you've heard this before, the Canucks make trades and then go on a win streak. All right. We'll slow the roll here. Yeah. Of course, it happened in the wake of the Quinn Hughes trade in December. They do get a victory here against the Chicago Blackhawks. Blackhawks, by the way, become the third Canucks victim this season. Washington and Anaheim have had to wear the crown of shame, losing twice to the Canucks, and now the Blackhawks do as well.
First road win of 2026 for the Vancouver Canucks. Have lost 9 straight away from Rogers Arena. Last road win was December 29th in Seattle. That was that shootout victory. Good for them. I mean, they played well in this hockey game off the back of playing well against the Carolina Hurricanes. A lot of talk, a lot of speculation. We'll get into it a little bit later about the deadline. But all in all, a pretty good road effort, solid road effort for the Vancouver Canucks in Chicago.
You see the trade tracker down there if you get distracted. That's understandable. Lots going on around the National Hockey League today. Again, the deadline has come and gone. So these are your Vancouver Canucks for the most part with 20 games now remaining. There may be some changes. You heard Patrick Alvin earlier in the day talk about wanting to get a look at a few young guys and maybe some call-ups, although there's not much down on the farm, and that is evidenced by the fact that Abbotsford's got 9 forwards in its lineup as it's playing, and this is life when the big league team is moving players in and out. Connor Garland last night, David Kampf earlier today. So the big league team gets a victory, and we'll see what happens with the minor league club, but that trade tracker at the bottom of our live stream is the DFO trade tracker, and it's powered by Puckpedia. And of course, you were part of the big DFO trade deadline special. Job well done by a cast of thousands, and it's great to see the options that are out there on a trade deadline day to follow all of the activity around the National Hockey League. Wild start to this hockey game. The Blackhawks score on their first shot on the goal, and the Canucks were like, hang on, we can do that too. And so sure enough, they score on their first shot of the game. There were 3 goals in the first 2.5 minutes. There were 5 goals 12 minutes in. And this was on the heels of the game the other night that saw 10 goals between Carolina and the Vancouver Canucks. So we don't see the Canucks score in bunches often. They did. And just to go back to, I said it in jest off the top, a win streak incoming. We'll see what happens. Quick turnaround. They're into Winnipeg on Saturday night, so we're going to be back here doing this again. But if people are worried that all of a sudden, the mood's going to be lightened somewhat, the uncertainty is gone, the players that are here are going to be here, and they know that, all that kind of stuff. The Canucks benefited from the fact that Spencer Knight, who has really emerged as a legit number 1 goaltender, he was ill, so the Blackhawks had to go with their backup. Arvid Soderblom wasn't very good in this hockey game. And you look at the winning goal, the Brock Besser, the first of his 2, bats it out of the air on the power play early in the third period. Soderblom had no business putting that puck into Brock's wheelhouse, but he did. And there were a couple of others that I think a lot of goaltenders probably stopped, but he didn't. Canucks will take advantage of that. And the Canucks have been on the other end of that, some shaky goaltending, so they're not going to apologize for getting the goals that they did in this hockey game. But beyond that, the Blackhawks have 2 wins in their last 12.
Yeah, they're in a bad way.
They've traded away half their team, including their captain earlier today, so it is a win. It goes into the win column for the Vancouver Canucks. It's their first in 8 games. It's their 19th victory of the season, but again, I don't see this as the start of any sort of prolonged run of victories. Now, they play Winnipeg, they play Ottawa, they get Nashville. There are winnable games certainly ahead in an 8-game homestand once they get off the road trip here from the Peg on Saturday night. So there may be more wins coming for the Vancouver Canucks, but again, I don't think that the trade deadline and them, pulling off a victory in the hours after the trade deadline is an indication that all of a sudden they're going to heat up. They're still dead last by a long shot in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, they're still the Vancouver Canucks, and I think you look at it in a way of, okay, the deadline from the deadline angle. All right, it's over. No more uncertainty. We're not going to ask Jake to wave. Brock's not waving. We're not going anywhere. Vander Kane and Teddy Bluger are going to be Vancouver Canucks till at least the end of this season. So you go in, you play the game. There's no distraction other than going to play the game. You mentioned everything that's going on with the Chicago Blackhawks, but for this hockey team and the way that they were beat the 2 games earlier this week, for them to come in and have back-to-back efforts where we don't have to sit here and look at it and say, man, that was an awful hockey game. They played well, and there were certain performances in this hockey game that you can look at and say, man, if those 2 guys can build off this, Zeev Beam and Tom Willander thought played well in this hockey game. Those are, if there are things that they can build on there. I thought most of the defense was pretty okay in this hockey game. We can't say that every single night. I thought Nikita Tolopilo, was a little bit shaky to start the game, held his own in the late stages, made some big saves when he needed to. But for the most part, for this team, where they're at with, I mentioned it all the time, I'm the big vibes guy, with the vibes being so low for so long surrounding this hockey team, for one night and one night only, they go get a win in Chicago, a place that they're comfortable winning in, a place that they know they can win in. Go get that done. Now you're off to Winnipeg.
Yeah, and again, would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on the week that was, the last 24 hours, those hours leading into the trade deadline. Would they build on the momentum of peddling Connor Garland to the Columbus Blue Jackets late last night? Spoiler alert, the answer is no. I think people thought maybe they had sort of cleared the books and would come up swinging on this Friday. That part didn't really happen for the Vancouver Canucks. But it was a fairly underwhelming trade deadline across the board compared to years gone by, and maybe that speaks to the new economic realities in the National Hockey League. Whatever the case, this game or anything around this hockey club, always up for discussion here on Rink Wide. Bring it with a Super Chat, our charity partner again this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. There have been way too many nights this year where we have said that this doesn't, they haven't played like a team, that there have been too many individuals, they haven't been connected. Whatever the case, 12 of the 18 skaters picked up a point in this hockey game, so it wasn't on the back of one particular player. Yeah, Brock Besser ends up with a pair, including an empty netter. Good to see Max Sasson getting some ice time, getting opportunities, making the most. He had a goal and an assist in this hockey game. There were a handful of guys that had 2-point games. Don't want to give away everything with our 3 stars that are still to come here. But, yeah, against an opponent that is struggling almost as badly as they are, the Vancouver Canucks were able to spread the offense around. They responded to the early goal against, and on a lot of nights, that might have sent them spiraling, but it didn't. In fact, it took exactly 60 seconds after Ryan Donato opened the scoring at 1:08. It was Drew O'Connor at 2:08, and then, as we said, goals galore. Jake DeBrusk scored 24 seconds after O'Connor. The Canucks took a lead there, and then Teddy Bluger gave them a 2-goal lead. Something, Irf, they had not had the luxury of on the road since a win against the Islanders before Christmas, part of that 4-game win streak. The Canucks on the road had not had a 2-goal lead since the 19th of December. So
that is a long time.
Yeah, and so it's easy to understand why they'd lost 9 in a row in regulation.
Yeah.
They were falling behind, chasing games, couldn't come up with offense. Look, it wasn't that long ago where they scored 2 goals, exactly 2, in 7 straight games. Then it dropped off to 1 for a couple of games. Well, 4 the other night and 6 here. Mm-hmm. So maybe, just maybe, guys loosening the grip on the sticks a little bit, and some guys feeling it. And we know that this isn't a team that's blessed with a ton of gunners, but their best scorers showed up on the score sheet tonight in Drew O'Connor with his 15th of the year, Jake DeBrusk, his 14th, and then Besser with 2 late goals ends up getting 15, so he's tied with Drew O'Connor as well. Brock scored the other night, so 3 goals in 2 games for Brock Besser, and we've seen him be streaky through his career. Maybe not as streaky as Jake DeBrusk, but again, he tried to laugh it off with the line about it wouldn't be a deadline if my name's not in it. He had control this year, unlike last year, because of his contract and the trade protection, but still. Probably unnerving to hear your name getting discussed. You're seeing teammates leave left and right, And so if there was a little bit of peace of mind for Brock Besser, then it allows him just to settle in and do what he does, and that is score goals. So he's up to 15. It's a far cry from the 40 that he scored a couple of seasons ago. But, hey, maybe he can make a late push and try and salvage what has been a lost season for so many of these guys individually and as a team.
Absolutely. And, Brock has been here as long as anybody has for the Vancouver Canucks, and he knows. He's, talked about it for years on end about, like you mentioned, it's not a trade deadline unless his name's involved. So good for him for getting on the score sheet, one empty net goal, and then the other one, obviously, power play goal, able to put the puck in the back of the net. But you hope that he can go on one of those streaks. At 15 now, can you get to 23, 24, 25 goals with this many games left? It's a goal every other game. I mean, if, like we know about Brock, he likes to go on streaks when he scores, so we'll see what happens. Jake DeBrusk as well, another player that is also very streaky in the goal scoring column. Interesting to see Teddy Bluger score. Saw Max Sasson pop one into the empty net there. But that second period was interesting when they're down 3-2 or up 3-2. That second period was all Chicago.
Yeah, and it's funny because the shots in the second period end up being 10-6. That doesn't look as one-sided. I think at one point the shots were like 10-2 or 9-2. And yeah, the Frank Nazar goal, the tip in the high slot, that just felt inevitable. As I look back here through my notes, Nazar on the power play had a good look. Ilya Mikheyev short-handed at the side of the net, still not sure how he didn't score. And then the Bridleland Valley, Connor Bedard absolutely ripped one off the crossbar. That sort of patented pull the puck into your body and the release, and Tolopilo didn't even blink. Thing hits the bar, but stayed out. And, in a game when there were a ton of goals being scored, Connor Bedard is held off the score sheet, not for a lack of trying. 4 shots on goal, 9 attempts, plays 23 and a half minutes in this hockey game. But it wasn't to be. And, there's a massive drop-off. Bedard and Tyler Bertuzzi, who leads the Blackhawks in goals with 26, those two guys, and then there's this huge drop-off in scoring. So if you hold Bedard and Bertuzzi off the score sheet, pretty good chance that you're going to come out on top. And that is, in fact, what happened for the Vancouver Canucks here tonight. Let's get to the 3 stars of this hockey game. The 3 stars here on Rink Wide are always brought to you by Greta Bar YVR. Terrific spot to watch all kinds of games, hockey, March Madness, World Baseball Classic is underway. We've got games on here in our studio as well. You name it, though, and the game is going to be on at Greta, and it'll be on one of the many big screens. Sometimes it'll be on all the big screens, depending on the size of the game. They've got the great game day food and drink specials, a sensational street food menu as well, and if that's not enough, then you've got the arcade games that wrap around the bar as well. Greta Bar, the place to be, 50 West Cordova. Greta Bar, let the games begin. 3 stars in the building, Jake DeBrusk, Frank Nazar, and Marcus Pettersson sneaks in the building, which surprises me a little bit because generally you don't think of Marcus Pettersson in high-scoring games, but looky here, the old rink-wide 3 stars, there's M-Pet as well. He's the 3rd star here. Did not love his first shift of the game. Him and Tom Verlander are out there. Ryan Donato dumps the puck in. I think Pettersson thought he was going to hard rim it because he sort of pivots and goes towards the left side. He takes a long way. Yeah. And Verlander tries to stand Donato up, misses, and then basically puck bounces in the slot. Donato hops onto it. Tolopilo got caught, and no man's land there whether to play the puck or not. He elected not to, and Ryan Donato tucks it in and made it look pretty easy. And 68 seconds in, and you're thinking, not the start the Vancouver Canucks want. But from that point on, Marcus Pettersson delivered. And good on him. There's 4 young defensemen in this Vancouver Canuck lineup. Pettersson and Hronek are going to have to shoulder the load. They're going to get the big assignments and matchup minutes and all those types of things while trying to mentor the young guys. Marcus Pettersson's night finishes with 2 assists. You generally don't think of him as an offensive guy. His first multi-point game since being acquired by the Vancouver Canucks over a year ago, but he's +3 and just quietly went about his business in 27 minutes and 12 seconds. I would say that first play, and it really wasn't a huge mistake. I think good description. He just took the long way, turned the wrong way basically. But after that, it's a solid stay-at-home night plus adds a little offense. So a good night for Marcus Pettersson. He's the 3rd star. There's Elias Pettersson, had a goal, had an assist, had that chance that we talked about as well. There could have been more. He's the 2nd star. And we picked Jake DeBrusk. Besser could have been in there. We mentioned Max Sasson as well, but I like Jake's hand-eye on the deflection goal that, again, turned a deficit. They tie it up, and then Jake DeBrusk off the face-off. It's EP40 back to Zeev Buium. DeBrusk started on the wall and was able to get to the front of the net, get the stick on the point shot, and tip it home, and that put the Canucks in front. And DeBrusk also picks up an assist on the Besser game winner. So we went with Jake tonight as the first star of this hockey game. Jake DeBrusk, Ilya Mikheyev, Marcus Pettersson, your 3 stars here on Rink Wide.
Yeah, I got no problem with that. I think also on that Marcus Pettersson one, it was 65 seconds into the hockey game. That puck is not going to come flying off the boards the way it did that early into the hockey game with that fresh ice and as quick as it did in the later stages of the game. I mean, sometimes it is a set play and it does work, but usually it's not coming off that far. So obviously Chicago knew what it was doing. Obviously a little bit of a set play there, but Marcus Pettersson, he's going to make some mistakes. He has made mistakes all year, but that one we can give him back because of the way this game ended and how well he played after.
Hey, Canuck fan 9420's brought it with a super chat.
Sweet.
To appreciate the support for the BC Mental Health Foundation. Wait, the Canucks actually won a game? No. Tank must keep rolling. Again, they're not going to win them all. There's 20 games remaining. That cushion, they cut into it a little bit. We'll see what happens. The St. Louis Blues are in action as we do this on the live stream, tied 1-1 late in the second period down in San Jose. So the Canucks pick up ground on the New York Rangers, who were idle on this night. The gap is 8. No, the gap is 10. Right, because the Rangers picked up a victory. So it's still a 10-point gap there.
You got to win 5 in a row to even, or at least 5, yeah.
But just the idea of 5 in a row, but even 5 in a row would be 2 weeks. I think as bad as some of those other teams are. And look, Calgary peddled players today. The Blackhawks have been peeling off all kinds of guys all week. And so have the Vancouver Canucks. St. Louis Blues got rid of Braden Shen and Justin Falk. Like, all these teams are trying to get bad here down the stretch. But the Canucks have built themselves a pretty comfortable cushion, and I think it's going to take something pretty extraordinary for the Vancouver Canucks to fall completely or to lose their grasp on last place. I mentioned that they're 10 back of St. Louis, 10 back of Calgary as well. So 11 behind the Rangers, 11 behind the Chicago Blackhawks, and 10 back of both St. Louis and the Calgary Flames. Another super chat here, 7-7 says, I had a heart attack seeing DeBrusk, Petey, and Kane back together for a shift. Can we never see them all together again? All right, eventful day for Evander Kane.
Yeah.
He took the morning skate, and then Adam Foote in Chicago said, no, he's not going to play. Just a lot going on. When Adam Foote held court with the media in Chicago, there was still about an hour to go before the trade deadline, but the coach at that point said Kane was not going to play. Now, they still had David Kampf at their disposal at that stage. Then Kampf gets traded for a 6th rounder to the Washington Capitals. All of a sudden, the Canucks only have 12 forwards on the roster and on the road with them because they picked up big Curtis Douglas off waivers, but he was still with Tampa. They were in Toronto, logistics. He's going to meet the team in Winnipeg. Anyways, Evander Kane basically had to play if they were going to ice a full lineup. So Evander Kane does end up playing in this hockey game, much to the chagrin of some who, were hoping that the Canucks would find a taker for Evander Kane, and failing that maybe the Canucks would consider scratching Evander Kane now that the trade deadline has come and gone. Whatever the case, fairly low ice time for Evander Kane, 12.5 minutes, which pales in comparison to some nights where he's been up close to 20.
At the beginning of the year.
It was interesting. He started lower in the lineup, which, again, now the trade deadline has come, the Canucks don't really owe Evander Kane anything other than what's left on his contract. But in terms of ice time and opportunity, and I thought it was a step in the right direction. The first power play of the night, Evander Kane wasn't part of either unit. Subsequent power plays, he was out there as part of the second grouping. And we'll see if that continues as the Canucks play out the string here with 20 to go. But beyond that, the first penalty kill of the night I thought was interesting and telling and a step in the right direction in that both Liam Ogren and Max Sasson got legitimate penalty killing shifts, like not 10 seconds at the end of the penalty or anything. Like one of them was 41 seconds. I think the other was somewhere in the 30s. Like, it was a solid penalty kill shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see more of that. And they've been incorporating Ogren recently, but Sassen's been in and out of the lineup. Got in the other night because Kane didn't play. Got in tonight because Kampf had been traded away. We'll see if a guy like Max Sasson stays in the lineup, but a goal and an assist, you would think, is putting his best foot forward here. You can say, it was an empty netter. Yeah, it's an empty netter in a one-goal hockey game. The idea that he's out there late in that situation preserving the victory, I think, again, kudos to the coaching staff, and we haven't said that on every Rink Wide all season long, but those are the little things that I want to see. I want to see some of these young guys trying to protect the lead and get it across the finish line, and so I like the idea that Max Sassen's out there, and you saw his speed, tracks down a loose puck, and from a sharp angle hits the empty net. Game's over at that point.
Yeah, he's got speed to burn. I 100% agree with you. They don't know anybody anything anymore. And then where you are in the season, you play the young guys. You have to see what you have in some of these young players. We'll get to the guy that I want to talk about in just a second here, but you're right. I mean, if there are nights where Evander Kane doesn't play at all, that's totally fine. They don't owe anybody anything. He doesn't need to play every single night the rest of the way. You're so far off the grid when it comes to anything in the standings. You need to get these guys premium NHL minutes against good NHL opponents and really just see what you have here. Whether the wins and losses, they don't matter at all anymore. This is about development. This is about seeing what you have. And this is about who deserves to be here for the future. You know what Evander Kane's going to be at 35, 36 years old. You're probably not re-signing him in free agency. So for the rest of the season, I would love to see, Adam Foote and his coaching staff decide to implement some of the young guys. Like you mentioned, Max Sasson, Atu Ratu getting back into the lineup after forever. Held his own a little bit, takes a silly penalty, but again, where they needed him the most, 11-2 in the faceoff circle, just crushed, winning key faceoffs when he needed to.
So this is the interesting part for me, and you're right. Atu Ratu goes 11-2 in the faceoff circle, a guy that hadn't played since before the Olympic break. So clearly rust hadn't built up on his one sort of superpower at this level, but there's more to the game than just faceoffs. And on a night when the Canucks beat the Blackhawks handily, and it wasn't a high-event game, shots were 23-22. At 5-on-5, Atu Ratu got absolutely caved in by the Chicago Blackhawks. Individual Corsi of 16%. Shot attempts were 15-3 for the Blackhawks. And so people scream about, why doesn't this guy play? Well, because there are two ends of the ice. And if a coach, and again, the games don't matter now. And so I don't want to give him a pass when the underlying numbers are that lopsided, but I also don't want that held against him. I want that used as a teaching moment, saying, look, you've got to get better here. You got to spend more of your shifts up ice in the offensive zone, because when the games do matter, the coaches want to be able to trust a guy like Atu Ratu and have him out there to win faceoffs. But even when you win as many faceoffs as he does, and then you have underlying numbers like that, like there's a disconnect there. You would think if you win that many faceoffs, you'd have control, you'd be able to exit the zone and get off to the races. The shots were 5-1 for the Blackhawks. Somehow the goals were 1-0 in the Canucks' favor with Ratu on the ice. So it didn't cost them in this hockey game. But again, it's not as simple as just play Atu Ratu. Atu Ratu's got to live up to his end of the bargain here. And so faceoffs, yeah, great. Keep doing what you do. He is a lead in that area, but he's got to find a way to make that mean more than just, big wins in that one statistical category and on the stat sheet. He's got to find a way to spend more of his shifts in the offensive end. I
say that we talk about Atu Ratu, and you mentioned that, taking care of your own end and being better in that category, which brings me to another player. He only played 942, and that's Victor Mancini, right? It's about earning your ice time. So I can be happy for Atu Ratu gets in the lineup. He was really good in the faceoffs, but Victor Mancini, when you're in the lineup, you got to do something with it. And unfortunately for him, if you're not taking care of your own end, they're not going to play you much.
No, and this is the Blackhawks. Again, 2 wins in a dozen now. There are better teams out there.
Yeah.
There are bigger challenges. Victor Mancini's individual Corsi, 31%. So shots were 5-1 for the Blackhawks when he was out there. Shot attempts 11-5. And quite honestly, I didn't notice much of Victor Mancini. No. And so this is kind of curious to me that they're carrying 6 defensemen at this moment. Curtis Douglas, again, is a big forward. He's going to join them on the road tomorrow. Back-to-back, and I'm going to assume that everybody got out of this game healthy. So unless they call somebody up from Abbotsford, it's going to be the same six being asked to play back-to-back. Winnipeg, better team than Chicago, but the Jets have had their struggles. But still, that Scheifele line, they can motor. They'll have last change and be able to dictate the matchups. Can you get Victor Mancini out there in those situations? And if so, can he defend? And I think the jury is still out on, what is this guy exactly at the National Hockey League level? The physical tools are there in spades. I mean, he looks the part, but you're right. The big tell any time in a hockey game is how much do the coaches use a guy? How much do they trust a guy? Yeah. And Victor Mancini did not play an awful lot, under 10 minutes of ice time in this hockey game.
And the crazy thing about Victor Mancini is he maybe not dominates, but he looks the part in the American Hockey League. Like, he looks like he belongs in the NHL, in the American Hockey League. And then when he comes here, I guess it just goes to show you how big the competition, how big the discrepancy of the competition is. And obviously, it's the best league in the world for a reason. But yeah, just down there in the farm, he's plays unbelievably well.
Yeah, no hits in this hockey game. Yeah. Again, big dude. I want to see him sort of embrace that size and bring a little bit of physicality, and just you don't see that from him. And I don't know if he's cut out for that. I don't know if ultimately that is in his DNA. All right, we do a stat that stands out after each and every Canucks game. So let's go to the stat that stands out here after the 6-3 win against the Chicago Blackhawks. Goals for the Vancouver Canucks. We haven't seen many of them. This is the first time that the Vancouver Canucks score 5 in a game since a 5-4 win at Anaheim on November the 26th. November, December, January, February. All right, February only had 4 games. We're into March now. It's been a long time. They get to 6 with the second empty netter. I had to look that one up. Only one other time this year have they scored 6 in a game, and that was when they got 5 in the third period in Tampa. And so, yeah, this is the high water mark. You have seen a little bit of Canucks history on this night, at least for this season. It's just the second time that they have scored 6 goals in a hockey game, but the first, as you can see on the screen there, the first time that they've had 5 in a long time.
Well, the good thing about that is when they score 5, they win. So they don't get to it much, but you're right. I think that this team has obviously struggled to score a lot this season. They've been on the wrong end of the score sheet a lot, and we can pinpoint it to pretty much one thing: their stars aren't their stars on most nights and haven't been. And when they are, we have a night like this where Brock Besser gets 2 or Jake DeBrusk gets a goal, where you look at guys that need to score and be on the score sheet. They're there and they're shining. And on the other nights, yeah, those guys aren't around. They're not going to win many hockey games or score many goals.
I mean, we have to talk about them. We talk about them on every show. It's it should be its own feature. If you want to sponsor the Elias Pettersson moment, hey, reach out. You can find us on social. Came out of the Carolina game with the loss, and people were like, hey, he dug in. He had a couple of assists there the other night. He won the faceoff that led to the Jake DeBrusk goal at 2-1. But that's the only point. A secondary assist for Elias Pettersson. You look at his night as a whole here, 17 minutes and 51 seconds. Did have a couple of shots on goal, so there have been a lot of nights where that hadn't been a thing. And like Atu Ratu, he killed it in the faceoff circle, 11-3. So a really good night in the circle for Elias Pettersson, but by no means a dominant night territorially as the game went along.
No, not at all for EP40. 2 shots on net. He was pretty good in the face. He was very good in the faceoff circle, like you mentioned. I mean, I don't know what we need to see from him at this point, night in and night out, for make everyone be like, okay, he's back, or there's something, or there's a sign, or this, that, the other. I think this guy just needs to go out and finish out the rest of the season and get to start his summer training as soon as possible. I think you need to rid this season of whatever it is and do something completely different. Change whatever juju you had from last season into next year and just come back better. And that's, I think he would say it. He did say it, in fact, that he owns it. He obviously the contract stuff and everything that he talked about. But for the rest of this season, yeah, He's going to get points here and there. There's going to be times where he looks decent or okay, but in no way can we sit here and say, even if he has a good game, that, oh my goodness, Elias Pettersson is back or what have you.
Yeah, when he was at the same stage of his career as Connor Bedard, we would talk about nights where he had 9 shot attempts and he rang one off the crossbar, and Bedard had that chance at 4-on-4 early in the second period in and all alone and couldn't score. So even in a losing cause where he doesn't find himself on the score sheet, there were still moments where you're like, damn, that's what separates Bedard from the rest of his team and from a lot of guys in the league. I still would like to see a few of those moments. And maybe I'm asking for too much, as you said, for maybe that train has pulled out of the station for this season. I certainly hope it hasn't for his career, but against a weak Chicago team, you would have thought that the ground was pretty fertile for a player like Elias Pettersson to make his mark. Again, his team wins. He's on the score sheet, so this wasn't a lost night for him, but certainly didn't feel like, we didn't consider him as one of the stars. Marcus Pettersson ended up being one of the stars. Elias Pettersson, not so much. But, hey, tomorrow's another night, and we'll see what he looks like in Winnipeg against the Jets. The Canucks record with the victory, 19-36-7. So it's still terrible. And it's not going to get appreciably better with 20 games to go, but they are up to 45 points on the season. And, yeah, they snap a 7-game losing streak. So there's been a lot of losing this season for the Vancouver Canucks, and that's why in a week where they see popular teammates like Tyler Myers and Connor Garland walk out the door, on some level, for a night at the very least, you have to feel good that these guys experience a victory. But I hear people when they don't want to see too many of these. But again, I don't think one win over the Chicago Blackhawks is going to alter the trajectory of this hockey club season.
I got one for you. The deadline is now gone. It is OVAH. Thank God. See you later. I don't have to talk about it anymore. I am so happy about that. You asked Patrick Alvin this a couple days ago. Got re-asked again today. Today. Let me ask you, in these final 20-something games that they have, is it the young guys that you want to see? Is it what signs are you looking for, or what do you want to see from this group, or even this coaching staff when it comes to games?
I want to see Curtis Douglas.
It's true. Guy's a monster. Was he 6'9", 260 or
something?
250?
Yeah, something like that. And I am curious because it's just not the kind of player that the Canucks have employed, certainly with this management group. And when was the last time they had a super heavy? It was like Tom Sestito. I mean, Zadorov was a big dude that was willing to drop gloves, but Curtis Douglas is a pretty one-dimensional guy. I think everybody understands what got him to the National Hockey League and what's probably going to keep him in the National Hockey League. The problem there is that there are so few of those types of players that it's not easy to find a willing combatant on the other side each and every night out. So we'll see how it goes. New team, that he's going to want to impress, and I think he probably will literally fight for the Vancouver Canucks to show them that he belongs here and they can use a guy like him. So what do I want to see? I guess I just want to see a little bit of pushback, a little bit of resistance. And I'm not even talking about Curtis Douglas and the fighting. I'm talking about the fact that they rolled over against the Dallas Stars the other day. Now, the Stars are making a lot of teams look bad. They went into Calgary the next night, and again, without breaking much of a sweat, skated circles around the Flames. So the Canucks aren't alone here. But I liked in a losing cause that they didn't go quietly against Carolina. And when Chicago scores on its first shot, 1 minute and 8 seconds in, 24 hours after the Canucks have traded away yet another veteran piece, I thought, a little bit of a gut check. Small G, small C, but terrible start. It goes against them early. I like the fact that they answered a minute later, and then 24 seconds after that, they took a lead. And so on the nights when the games don't start well, when they fall behind, when they feel like it's not going their way, what does that look like? And it's going to happen, trust me. With this team and 20 games to go, they'll still find their share of adversity. And so I'm encouraged by the fact that they clawed back against Carolina the other night. Lost the hockey game. Carolina goes into Edmonton and beats the Oilers. Like, Carolina's a good team as well. But tonight, when they got off to a bit of a shaky start, they didn't look deterred. They didn't look rattled ultimately. And they come back and they win this thing going away, which hasn't happened very often. In fact, I'd have to look. Like, the win over Anaheim, their last win was a 2-0 win. The win before that, Washington, was 4-3. Like a 3-goal victory for the Canucks.
Yeah.
There haven't been many of those this season. So I guess that's what I want to see on a nightly basis, individual and collectively, is a little bit of backbone. If you get punched in the mouth, the punch back. I want to see DPD be physical when the opportunities present themselves. I want to see Verlander and Zeebuiam, work the power play and break the puck out and those types of things. I like Liam Ogren, and we talked about Sasson getting some more opportunities here. I'm curious if they plug Curtis Douglas into the lineup tomorrow night. Who comes out? I don't want it to be Sasson or Ratu, who have been in another lineup too much.
Evander Kane.
I'm on the Evander Kane train, I guess.
Yeah.
And, it's not even so much Evander Kane. It's more the idea of a veteran on an expiring contract who has no future here. But this one's interesting to me, too, because, and I've seen some people talking about this today, this was Evander Kane's 990th National Hockey League game. He's 10 away from 1,000. What a bizarre ceremony that will be at Rogers Arena, just considering the way the season's gone for him, for the team, the fact that he's got one foot out the door here. If he plays the next 10 games, his 1,000th game will come in Calgary, the first game after this 8-game homestand. So the math doesn't add up. He can't reach 1,000 games at any point on the homestand. And then they're out on the road for 4, so that would delay any kind of ceremony because the Canucks generally do them after, right?
Yeah, they let them play the game
Yeah.
first.
And, he hasn't been very good for the Canucks. The Canucks haven't been very good. He's not the most popular guy, but he is a Vancouver guy, and getting to 1,000 games in the National Hockey League is an incredible accomplishment, and it would be marked. Like, the team would acknowledge him. I don't know how extravagant the ceremony would be. I don't know if there'd be big gifts and stuff. Sometimes you see that. Generally, that's for a guy that's played the bulk of his 1,000 games with the same team. That has not been the case for Evander, who's bounced around. But when you just think of marking an occasion like that at the tail end of this lost season, it would be a bizarre ceremony. It would. It would be sort of one of those ceremonies that I think a lot of people, lukewarm sort of response and reception at Rogers Arena.
Yeah, I think it would be a decent reception. I think 1,000 games is a huge accomplishment in the National Hockey League. I think that there's been guys that have been traded before that have had 1,000 games reached with like 20 games with their new team or whatever it was, and then there was a ceremony.
Which would have happened had he got so regardless, it was going to kind of be a clunky situation when he gets to 1,000. But I'm with you. Regardless what you think of a player, like 1,000 games is a hell of an accomplishment. When you think what these guys put their bodies through, and this guy missed an entire season. Like, he would have got to 1,000 last year, but he needed his body to recover so that he could get back for the playoffs. There won't be playoff hockey for him this time around. But again, you want to acknowledge anybody that gets to 1,000 games, but it will happen. There's 20 games to go. He needs 10 more. They'd be out on the road. There'd be like 5 games left in the regular season before the Canucks would have a chance at home to acknowledge him reaching 1,000.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a decent-sized ceremony. I think it will. I think when you look at Evander, yes, there's a lot of stuff that comes into play with Evander Kane, a lot of baggage, so to speak, and things like that. By all accounts, this season, Evander's been pretty good with the young guys. Guys like Zeev Buium, guys like Tom Willander, the younger players on this team, taking them out for dinners, doing things with them, being around the young guys, trying to be a mentor to them. And I think the organization, I'm not saying that they're going to re-sign him because of this or re-sign him at all. I think the organization has been very happy with that, if I'm being really honest. I think that leadership role of Evander's has taken a toll and is part of like a mentorship role a little bit. Now, say what you want about the guy being the mentor and what have you, but by all accounts, from the people and from the guys in the room, they've really enjoyed that from Evander.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because for all the baggage that he brings with him wherever he goes, and I think some of it's earned and some of it's just reputational. I don't know about you, but I haven't heard a peep of any sort of distraction. Has he been very good on the ice? No. Who has? For this hockey club, did people expect him to be a little more physical? I think so. But he's into double digits in goals, and so to his credit, I think some people thought, as this season slipped away and got off the rails as a team, that maybe it would be all about Evander. I haven't heard that whatsoever. And so to your point, there has been some mentorship there. I think for that, we should at least acknowledge it. But I do want to ask you, because you kind of touched on it there, the Canucks couldn't find a trading partner for him.
Yeah.
I think when they made the deal with Edmonton, the hope was, pay the price, have him play here, and then flip him at the deadline for more than you paid to acquire him. And, of course, that did not happen. Now, is that on Canucks management for not building a market for this player? Did the rest of the league just kind of figure him out? I always believed it was going to be a complicated deal because he had some trade protection. Not every team was going to be looking for that player in particular. But I do wonder, how much do you think this season has cost Evander Kane in the big picture? It's hard to imagine him getting a contract this summer in my mind. I think if he's going to play next year, he's going to have to go as a PTO somewhere and earn it. I just don't see, he's going to be 35 in the summer. He hasn't been productive. He hasn't been physical. As we said, he hasn't been a distraction. But he had a chance to make himself a sought-after commodity this season and really didn't perform to a level where one team thought, yeah, we need Evander Kane for our playoff push.
Yeah, team success hurts individual success for sure. 27 points in 60 games, not good enough, obviously. And he had that, contract season Evander, right? That's what I always say about players in their contract year. What type of hockey are you going to get from this player? And for him, the motivation should have been twofold. One, get a contract, but two, get at least your last contract here, because this is probably what it's going to be if you are Evander Kane. And unfortunately for him, it just hasn't gone the way that he wanted. I think that there's someone out there that might give him $1 million. Yeah. Maybe $2 on a 1 year. I'm not entirely sure if a PTO. I think there's still something for him to give on a team that has him in the right situation. I think the situation here, playing with Elias Pettersson, Jake DeBrusk, that's a disaster, and we all know that. Where does he slot and fit onto this roster? I'm not entirely sure. I think the Canucks had a different idea of what it might look like than it has, and obviously we've done this show a lot, and it just hasn't worked. Mm-hmm. And that's not their fault. That's not his fault. It just doesn't work. There's probably a team out there that's going to acquire him or going to sign him in free agency. You look at the UFAs this year.
Yeah,
it's not deep, right? And Evander's a guy that has scored goals in the NHL. He has scored goals in the playoffs. There's a situation where someone might look at him and be like, all right, on the low, cap's going up. Let's see if there hasn't been a peep out of him this year when it comes to, distractions and things like that. By all accounts, he's been really good with the young guys in Vancouver. So let's see what we want to bring him onto a veteran team and just have him go to work. Maybe that's something that someone does.
It only takes one.
Yep.
So we shall see, but it's not going to be here in Vancouver. I can't imagine that the Canucks, with where they are after the season that was. So scratch him off the list. And he's played for enough teams that you probably scratch them off too, and so the list does get a little bit shorter here. But again, it only takes one, and we'll see what happens. But it would serve him well, and I wonder if the trade deadline passing is any sort of wake-up call that, whatever games he gets left in here, there is still a time for him this season to showcase himself, to show other teams that there's still a little bit of life in there. Like to see him be a little more physical, and if the arrival of Curtis Douglas and they plug him in, and if it comes at Evander's expense and he has to sit out, maybe that's a bit more of a wake-up call too. If he's not going to kind of play that role, that we'll see if Curtis Douglas is able to. I'm curious, because Curtis Douglas, at his size, he was put on waivers by Tampa. He hasn't proven that he can be any sort of everyday National Hockey Leaguer, and it can't just be about fighting. I mean, fighting's been phased out of this game, so can this guy play? Like, can he play a role?
Can't be like Matt Rempe.
Yeah, I'm scared. Like, can he get there to deliver hits at his size? So, we'll see when he gets plugged in. He's supposed to join the team in Winnipeg, and we'll see if he is available and an option to play and make his Canuck debut on Saturday. They win 6-3. Lots of goal support. Haven't seen that for the goaltenders on a lot of nights this season. Nikita Tolopilo, we talked about the fact that the start wasn't great, but after that, there were chances there in that second period as the Blackhawks were starting to take over. Tolopilo, again, making some saves that he had to. Oliver Moore had a chance in the third period in the slot at 4-3, could have tied the game. Hawks thought they had tied the game there on that wraparound, and Slaggert, he kicked it in. I mean, there was no doubt that was a kicking motion, but Mangiapane was, allowed to walk out from behind the net. I didn't love the defensive play there, and Tolopilo did make a stop before the puck was loose at the side of the net. Whatever the case, we've said this before. I mean, right now, Thatcher Demko's hurt and not coming back. Kevin Lankinen is in a world of hurt. Their best goaltending option in terms of keeping them in games and giving them a chance is Nikita Tolopilo, and he did it again here tonight. Yeah,
save percentage is good. Goals against is good. Those are starters' numbers. Like right now, in the small sample size of what we've seen from Nikita Tolopilo, those are starters' numbers, or at least backups' numbers in the NHL, and a good backup to boot. So Kevin Lankinen, like you mentioned, probably gets a start in Winnipeg. But again, we've sat here and talked about it. As bad as this team has been, let's see what you got. You can't want all the young guys and not include the goaltender. And I think that Nikita Tolopilo should get a run of games here. He's going to have plenty of opportunity to play almost every other night now for the foreseeable month, for the next month and a bit. So, I mean, look, I like his game. I think that, he's a big goalie, but also plays the position properly. He doesn't look out of place, in net. He's calm. He's not really sporadic when he's there. Doesn't really make too many mistakes other than the other night coming in cold against Carolina. But beyond that, let's see more of him. And let's do that.
We've got our Bet365 line of the night coming up. We'll get to that. But before we do, let's get to Chicago. Let's hear from Teddy Bluger. Was in trade talk, his name at least. But apparently there were no official offers made to the Vancouver Canucks. So Teddy stays and plays and may resign here in the offseason. We'll see what happens. Here's Teddy Bluger after a 6-3 win.
Big win for the team, of course, tonight. How important was this win for you guys to grab?
Very important. I think when it kind of gets like that, when it's a while without winning, so it kind of gets, guys get down on themselves, and it's kind of, you get in that negative spiral, so it's good to snap out of it a little bit, get the feeling of winning back, get some positivity, find some joy in the game a little bit.
Seemed like some good net front presence, but what'd you like from the game overall?
Yeah, I thought we stayed with it. I mean, first period was good. I thought special teams obviously won us the game. And then I thought, second period they kind of came back. But I think going into the third, we're in a pretty good spot. Obviously, it's too bad we gave up that goal late in the second. That was my fault. But I thought the guys came back strong, and big power play goal by Brock. And then I think, we obviously made mistakes, but I thought we stuck with it and tried to do the right things and battle and, keep the lead, which we did. So it was good.
What's the key to continuing this as you finish out a back-to-back tomorrow?
Yeah, just more of the same. I think nothing fancy. Obviously, tougher circumstance with the travel and the back-to-back, but I think just compete, energy, do those little things, win your races, win your battles. I think all those little things over the course of that game add up to success.
Just thoughts on still being here?
Hopefully it's the last day of these questions, no, I mean, really happy to be here. Obviously, kind of went into it with an open mind, never know what's happening. Obviously, you're keeping tabs throughout the course of the day, and we're all watching the trade deadline show at pregame meal and stuff. So I was watching, and then once I kind of got word nothing was happening, I think it was nice to know that you're staying put. I think it's nice for the family, just for my wife and our baby. Just makes it easier. Instead of having to live out of the suitcase and in the hotel and stuff, just being in our spot, having our routine and all that, I think that helps a lot. And obviously, I think the other tough part's kind of leaving your friends behind and all that. So just happy to be here. So.
I didn't ask you, but maybe about a week ago, Adam Footwood kind of pleaded to management to not trade you. Did you hear his comments? And
no, not really. I didn't watch him. I thought maybe Kuzma or someone told me. He said some nice things, which is always nice. At least hopefully not berate me publicly. So that was good.
Kuzma. Kuz gets a shout
The
from
buzz.
Teddy Bluger. And he laughed, but I hope the last time he sounded as tired of trade deadline as you are. But he's still here. And
So am I.
And so are you. Yeah, that's right. And Teddy gets his 6th goal. The guy's played 15 games for the Canucks and has 6 goals now. And his goal, nice work by Max Sasson on the entry, Elias Pettersson. Not great defense on the part of the Blackhawks. And look, the Canucks know a thing or two about not great defense. They've been guilty of this a lot. There were like 4 Blackhawks all around Teddy Bluger, and somehow Teddy Bluger on the doorstep, untouched, able to redirect the puck past Arvid Soderblom, and that was a big goal because that extended the Canucks lead to 3-1, gave them a little bit of a cushion, even though the Blackhawks tied the game at 3 late in the second period, and Teddy took ownership there and said it was his guy and his fault. But they score 3 goals in the third, and they win it by a score of 6-3. And if for no other reason, I'm glad Teddy's still here, just because he does sort of provide the conscience, I think, of that locker room that there's no sugarcoating. You know, he's a veteran guy, and he, I think, feels empowered to speak his mind, and I think that's a good thing.
And he's earned that right.
Yeah.
And that 211 or whatever it was of Teddy is, I think, one of the reasons, if you listen to it, one of the reasons why I think they want to re-sign him. Like, just honest in the assessment of his game. Talked about, Murph asked him the question about, are you surprised you're still here? And, so many guys in certain situations will kind of just shut down and not say anything, but he gave a thoughtful answer. Yeah. Talked about the honesty of living with his family and everything like that. And, I think that there's a reason why the asking price may have been really high. If there was one or there wasn't an offer, they were willing to retain on Teddy Bluger too. So that even would have made it easier for teams. But again, I think that he's a guy that they're going to want to be here and want to be around these young guys as they kind of make this thing grow. And I think that 2-year deal maybe for a guy like Teddy Bluger, I think he takes that every day. Probably wants 3 just for that security, but I think they offer him a 2-year deal.
Well, and
that's just my thought. I think that's what
I hear you, but also the things that you've reported in the past about the age range, and I'm with you. Like, I think I could support a 2-year contract. Yeah. Now, if Teddy wants to chase a bigger deal and more security, that's well within his right. But he has spoken about how much he likes it here. I talked about his family as well. But I don't think if they're going along with their plans of this rebuild, and they constantly talk about players 25 and under. Well, he's not that. Yeah. He's over 30 now.
They don't want guys like 33 and up. And, this would be the last year for him, and he would just be the veteran guy. But for a guy that you can have, like you just mentioned, the conscience of the team, so he's a pretty good guy to have. As long as he can still compete and play at a high level.
And who he'll play for next season, coaching is certainly going to be reevaluated in the offseason. We'll see. But the head coach for now is Adam Foote. Here he is post-game after the 6-3 win in the Windy City.
Adam, I know every win is important, but how important was this one for the group?
It's good. I mean, they had a tough start, but they stayed with it. And, I think you see, I just saw Bess's interview, and he's right. Like, just this type of day is hard. Leading up to it for a couple of weeks is hard on the whole team. A lot of noise, and you could tell that a couple guys felt a lot better after the deadline, and it showed tonight.
What does it mean for players and the coaches to celebrate a win, Adam, when there hasn't been a ton recently?
That's good. I mean, we'll build on it. We played pretty good last game as well, and especially the third period against a fast Carolina team. And other than the start, like young D wasn't ready at the beginning. They got the old trick bank off the end boards. That's just not being ready, but he'll learn from that. And but we stuck with it. We didn't really panic, and we came back pretty hard there. But it's a big win.
Did you tell there was a bit of a weight off some of the shoulders?
You could feel it. You could feel, but it seemed like you just tell the energy. They just seemed a little bit better, more at ease.
Of course, we've talked about just the leaders that you guys have lost. Are you seeing some of those guys especially just step up into leadership roles with the missing pieces?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the guys are talking and calm. I really like Bess today with his leadership, Marcus and Hronik, even Rossi. Like, the guys were calm and talking. It was nice. PD, DeBrusque, it was good to see.
Ratu hadn't played since before the Olympic break. He didn't lose any of his face-off prowess, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's good on the draw, and it helps when you, especially at the end there, or PK, where you can send two centers out. And he did pretty good. He did good tonight, considering he's missed some time. So it's good for him to gain some confidence.
All right, there you go. Adam Foote, post-game after the win in Chicago. On to Winnipeg now in a quick turnaround. It's a 4 o'clock start Pacific time. It's the early game on Hockey Night in Canada. So back-to-backs are always a challenge, but even more so when it's less than 24 hours between face-offs. So we'll see, but the Canucks go in with a victory. Can they make it 2 in a row for the first time? It would be back-to-back wins for the first time since that 4-game win streak just prior to Christmas.
I think you play this way. Winnipeg's also in a bad way too. They have one line. Reality.
Got a pretty good goalie.
A pretty good goalie in one line. I mean, they just got rid of a couple guys as well, so they're going to be a little depleted too. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, for the Canucks, the travel's going to suck. Get there late, but this is the NHL. And see what they can do.
In and out of Winnipeg, and we'll see if they can get a victory. What a night around the National Hockey League. Like, there were some heavyweight tilts, certainly Colorado and Dallas. Tyler Myers didn't play, by the way, and I think part of that is because he had been held out. He hasn't played since before the Olympics, and so to go through a trade and get thrown in against the Colorado Avalanche of all teams, he'll probably make his Dallas debut on Sunday against this Chicago Blackhawks outfit, but Colorado ends up beating Dallas in a shootout. Carolina at Edmonton. Carolina with the 6-3 win there. Anaheim and Montreal.
Wild.
Looked like a fun game. Anaheim was up by a bunch, and then Montreal roared back, had a late lead. Anaheim tied it. Ducks end up winning that one in a shootout, 6-5 in a shootout. You got Minnesota at Vegas. Like, what a Friday night of hockey around the National Hockey League. And St. Louis now with a 2-1 lead in San Jose with under 10 to go in the third period. So we'll monitor that one as we move along here, tell you if there are any score changes there. But it's all my way of telling you that, there were games beyond the Vancouver Canucks. So let's take a look at our Bet365 line of the night.
Oh, you know what I love about weekend games, Jeff? 9:37 a.m. puck drops. Oh, baby. Wake up and let it fly. Alexander Ovechkin is pissed. He is an angry, angry man right now. He is sad and he is angry. And that's why he's scoring against the Boston Bruins at plus 190. The Montreal Canadiens on the second of back-to-backs. I didn't think that game was going to go as wild as it did, so you never know what's going to happen. But let's go with the Habs. And the under, 5.5 total goals between the Vancouver Canucks and the Winnipeg Jets.
What? These are the high-flying Vancouver Canucks.
You're right, but I like the odds on that. Put those three together, you get really decent odds on Bet365. We'd every bet's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use code NATION. Bet365 must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. I imagine Tyler Myers was in the press box or at least somewhere maybe working out, watching that game, and looking at those two teams just go at it back and forth and the violence that they play with and everything that's going to happen. And he's probably just, I know he didn't play, obviously. He's probably chomping at the bit to get in the lineup on that team.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that has endured this season where there have been no stakes whatsoever, and then you get two teams that are battling like that and a preview maybe of a playoff second round. I don't think there's a chance that could be a first-round match. I don't think Minnesota's going to pass both of them, but we'll see what happens there. As for the Canucks, they're into Winnipeg. Jets beat Tampa 4-1 last night. Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor both scored, as did Gus Nyquist, who got his first of the season.
That guy hasn't scored in forever.
He had 28 goals one season. Like, he knows where the net is. He has not scored, or he hadn't scored until last night. Connor Hellebuck does what he does, stopped 26 of 27. John Cooper's probably seen enough of Hellebuck for a little while here. Scheifele with 29 goals. Kyle Connor has 28, so those guys can fly. They get her done, and they'll pose a challenge for the Vancouver Canucks. Jets are 5-2-3 in their last 10, so only 2 outright losses, and one of their wins was against the Canucks in overtime last week out of the All-Star break, or the Olympic break rather. Cole Perfetti with the overtime winner, 3-2 at Rogers Arena. They also beat the Canucks on Remembrance Day, so Winnipeg is going for the season sweep there. Prior to the win over the Bolts on Thursday, every game that Winnipeg had played out of the Olympic break had gone to overtime. 5 of their last 7 have gone beyond regulation, so lots of close games. And they're finding a way, and as you said, traded away Luke Shen and Tanner Pearson Both to Buffalo, but in separate deals.
I forgot Tanner Pearson played for the Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And when I saw that trade, I was like, oh, yeah.
Tanner Pearson. So a couple of former Canucks on their way to the Sabres, and we'll see what they do there. The Jets got Isaac Rosen, Jacob Bryson as well, and so we'll see if they've got some new faces in their lineup. And, of course, we'll be on Curtis Douglas' watch and see if he
Won't be hard to miss
No,
him.
you're right. They had a 6'8" guy in Tyler Myers. Now they replace him with a 6'9" guy. He will not be hard to find in that Vancouver lineup. I think he wears 42. At least he did in Tampa Bay. Kyle Wellwood's old number 42. It's open. It's available to him. So he was listed as 42 on the Canucks roster tonight. And
okay.
So there you go. If you're a numbers person, I think the newest Canuck will wear uniform number 42. All right, quick turnaround for those guys. Quick turnaround for us. But we will do it again here, and we'll see what Saturday brings. Less trade talk. And
No trade talk.
No trade talk?
I think we're done.
Okay.
That's it.
Fair enough. I'm down with that. I'll sign off on that.
I think we're done.
20 games to go for the Vancouver Canucks. Yes, this is officially now the start of the death march to the finish line. 20 remaining for the Canucks, and after Winnipeg, it's an 8-game homestand. So a lot of games at the Raj, a lot of inventory to move, and we'll see what the crowds look like. But it's a road game on Saturday. They're in Winnipeg. It's 4 o'clock start, so it'd be a little earlier than usual, but when the game is done, you know where to find us right here at Rink Wide. Jake Fraser, our producer behind the scenes, helping us out, and we thank him for his assistance tonight. For Irf, I'm Jeff. Thanks so much for checking out this episode of Rink Wide Vancouver.